and say, okay, can I live with 28,000 a year? And people say, well, that's why I didn't get into business for that. That's the reality. You can tell me whatever you want, but that's what I paid myself for the first 3 to 4 years. When I was, and then I hired a guy and he was making more than me. People say, I can't live with that because that takes a shot to my ego. It says, you don't understand. In order for me to grow to the next level, I got to give something up. I'll pay him more than I pay myself, but it frees me up to do sales. So then I can, because I'm building equity in my business. I'm building net worth. He's not. He's working for a salary. He needs a salary to stay with me. If not, he's going to go do something else.
Yep.
And those are the realities of these guys going to this market and thinking, I can't pay a guy more than me because, I'm the owner. I says, yeah, but you work for profit and you're having him work for peanuts.
Well, yeah, I mean, comparatively, and also what's the long term, right? Like,
what's your long-term strategy?
Yeah, those investments later on. I mean, that could be the difference from you and I having a conversation like this right now to a guy in 10 years who is so hands off at that point that it's just.
And that's going to depend on your capabilities. I don't see what's your management capabilities, what's your leadership capabilities, what's your stomach for risk. Would you be better off in 10 years saying, why don't I just take the profits from my business and maybe invest in real estate because that's my long-term strategy?
Yep.
See, it doesn't necessarily mean that the business can fund something else as long as you're disciplined and say, yeah, I'm going to start buying houses around my property because, yes, I live in a lower price market, but it's going to appraise because of all these other markets around me. Why don't I just buy a $300,000 home, invest in it, hold it, rent it out, and become a landlord, and then let the business finance that, because that's another strategy. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to add more people to your business.
Right.
So it has to do with goals. Your goals have to be kind of clear of where you want to go in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's hard for a lot of people.
Well, and honestly, for me, it's not. And I say that, with as much humility as possible, because we've been through some stuff.
Right.
And it changes everything, right? The mechanics of your home, just so many things. But again, for me, I mean, I keep using the word simplicity, but the reason that I say that is, get out of debt, right? You don't buy things you can't afford, all these things, so that like in 5 years, I can take a step back and go, oh, hey, my girls are going to college. Like, I can do the things that I want to do because I didn't go upscale my lifestyle. I have no interest in that at all. In fact, I would love to be able to disconnect more from it.
Right. And that's as long as you're clear, like some people, because a lot of people dilute themselves. I would want really this, but then they look at it and say their ego won't allow it. It has to do with the inner man. Sometimes they would want to do it and their spouse says, hell no, I don't want to live that lifestyle.
Right.
I want this and I want that and I want all of this. And I'm expecting you to provide it. And so there's a lot of dynamics that go into this complexity of being a human and what we want and what we think we want. And how hard is it to achieve a lot of the times the simplicity? It's much harder sometimes.
Well, yeah. And once you get so rooted in, like, you can't get out of it.
Right.
And that's a mistake. Well, I say mistake, maybe for some people, but some of my friends did do that. They just jumped right out of the plane and got right in it. And now they can't not do it because they bought a $250,000, whatever, they got so far in it. Now they have to do it to pay for all these things.
Yeah. You got golden handcuffs.
Where me, I mean, like, I definitely didn't feel this way 5 years ago. But now it's almost like my wife and I joke, like, when you get used to going without and having a lower income level, because you have to sacrifice to just live. Right. That scale for me is like anything above it. It's, the conversation you and I had the other day, it was like anything I make above this point to me is just like, hey, that's awesome. And that's the thing I think that is maybe a little bit different for me is I see the guys who come in the groups and they just, they shoot for the stars, and that's amazing. Like, I hope they make it, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I like
And a lot of the time it's ego, like I said, it's like, you're young. Some of these guys are really young. They're very idealistic. They don't understand the reality of actually owning a business.
And what's the percentage, though, honestly, of
Very
the
low.
guys who get to that level?
There's only so many places.
I only
There's
know
only
a handful.
Remember, there's only 100 spots on the PCT 100. Everybody's shooting for, and look, I know a lot of guys that are way above the income of a PCT 100 company. They're not on the PCT 100.
Yeah.
So not everybody that wants to be on that list, because you got to disclose a lot of things that are a privately owned company doesn't want to disclose. So I know a lot of guys that make more than that who right now are getting offered $10-20 million for their company, when they're at about 6 million or so in sales. So, and they're not on the PCT 100. So not everybody wants to be there. It's it's a running joke in the industry, a lot of that. But John, it just comes down to the individual level. What I would do, you really got to just know where your market's at. Do the market research. And here's simple market research. I mean, it's, to a lot of guys, this seems sleazy, but I said everybody does it, and it's fine. You call your competition and you find out where they're at. Where's your pricing at? Is it without a contract? What's the one-time price? Find out where the pricing is in the market, what they're charging. Be a customer. You're going to have to be a customer and pretend you're a customer and say, where are you guys at? And that's what you do to find out where the market is at. Second, what are they not doing? And that's always more important than what they are doing, because everybody's going after. But let's say you went after a simple model, the Aptiv model. I love that model. Some people hate them. I don't have an issue with the company and with their model. It's just the way they do it that people get upset about. But it's a very simple model. It's general pest control, initial service inside, 99% outside. It's IPM really most of the time. But if you're the best guy, if you're a higher caliber of tech, you should have no problem selling that concept and keeping it simple. This is my idea of keeping it simple. I don't do bee work. I used to do bee work. Like, people call me up, hey, you're still ranking for that. You're showing up #1 in the market for bee work. I said, I don't do bee work anymore, so I recommend it to my friend. I don't do 90% of what I used to do. I do, and I'm getting simpler and simpler and simpler, because when the more you know, the more wiser you get. You realize that less is more. You realize that quality over quantity.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, that's where I want to be. Right. And having the ability to kind of hand select, right, that those accounts, and like we talked about earlier, saying no, because I think, and that's something that just really got ingrained in me very early on, because I worked for a company that, like, you don't say no. You do everything, even when it's going to be an absolute nightmare fest, like, and being untrained and just not understanding, like, why isn't this working, and it's having no help. That's
right.
So I would love to say, hey, all these things that I've done up to this point in my life were all me, right? I mean, I've certainly fished around to try to find ways of doing things better. And again, that's kind of what led me into, I think, a lot of us into groups, is to just learn more. And I'm really thankful, for that, because before it was like, I think I started looking up like German cockroach treatments or something on YouTube, probably in like 2000 and, dude, it was, I don't even know, 2012 or something like that. And I mean, that was like the first time that I was like, oh wow, like, there's different ways of doing all of this stuff.
Yeah, we went. Look, there's two concepts. You talk to Daniel Dye, it's either spray and pray or bait and wait, or a combination of the two. We decided for our model, because of the unique selling proposition that we have, to go completely bait and wait. That's the only service we sell. We actually put it on our website we're the only company in South Florida that has a 0 indoor spray service. We don't spray anything. We don't even crack and crevice. If we have to do crack and crevice, we're using Nibor-D, which is a borate.
Right. Yep.
But
Yeah,
we've
I mean,
proven we can get rid of any roach problem in the most difficult circumstances. But do you want it quick? If you want it quick, you can't tell me you don't want the chemical all over the place.
Right.
You can't do I can't go and do the Bugs Burger service where we take everything out of the cabinets and we fog everything and we use an Actisol and we knock it all out instant. We'll get you control very quick, but then you can't say, I don't want the chemical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways. What we decided to do is I said, no, we're going to go the Deanie Miller route. The bait and wait we use point source, which is way more expensive than crack and crevicing but we don't have the labor either.
Yeah.
Because imagine having to take everything out of the cabinets and then crack and crevice everything and void treat and then put everything back or have the customer. It's very disruptive. And they say, we're going to come back next week and do this again.
Right.
So we found a USP where we say, hey, our service is non-disruptive. You don't have to. What about my plates? Oh, nothing gets contaminated.
Yep.
What about this? What about that? Do you spray inside here? No, we don't. So we have to explain what we do, but we went with the bait and wait model. So now it's bait. We went from Avert bait now to the new Doxum precision system, and we use point source IGR. And yes, we're using the new Vendetta Nitro. We went from Advion because we had a problem. We wanted to use the Advion, which is still our number one bait. But for a while, it wasn't available during the pandemic. It was completely out of stock. You couldn't get it at any price. So we had to switch over to Vendetta. I don't like it. Why don't I like it? It requires me to wear 14 mil gloves and the only bait on the market that requires long sleeve shirt, pants, shoes, socks, as if you were applying a chemical spray, is Vendetta Nitro. It doesn't fit with our model of what we want to do, but we had no choice.
Sure.
Because it was the next best bait available to control, especially when we're doing multi-unit, which we do a lot here of apartments, and we're doing single unit apartments, not the whole building. And the customer wants, this problem to go away because they've been living there for a year and they've, you got the dust, the tablets, they've thrown everything at this and they can't solve it. And we come in and says, yeah, but it's going to take 60 days.
Yeah.
And you got to wait those 60 days and you got to be patient with us, but we'll get it out of here. And no, we won't contaminate because they got, the dog and the cat and the bird and the kid, and they don't want any chemical anywhere. Yeah. That's our client. That's the kind of calls we get. People, I don't know how you do that. That's stupid. These people are dumb. I said, understand, that's the market I went after.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because nobody else wants to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that. Plus, it's the other thing too. I mean, there's a need. So why are you not filling it?
Exactly. So I decided to go for that 1%, but I ran the numbers. The 1% of 2.8 million is nice.
Right, because you've got that area to sustain it.
So that's what I'm talking about, doing the market research and understanding where everybody is, it's trying to find out that kink in that armor, where you can find it. And if you're going to be a solo operator, it's different if you wanted to be a scale company. We could still scale this. I've gotten it down to the point where it's scalable now. And the training is scalable, and everything that we do, I've simplified it even more during COVID because we learned those hard lessons of things we couldn't get the products. The products were guaranteed to the top 25% accounts. They weren't guaranteed to the small little guy that's buying, a couple thousand a year. So when we show up and we say, we're out of stock, because all the suppliers had to take care of the top 25 accounts. And that's a reality when you're doing business, that your suppliers are not going to give you a break on anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of lessons learned through the hard times that you don't learn when things are flowing. And that's what so now we scaled back even our product offerings, even more. So now we're basically lawn ornamental. We're the only company in South Florida that does a monthly ornamental lawn. We don't sell quarterly. We don't sell bi-monthly. We start out at a minimum of 120 a month, when company does that. But if you want the eco-friendly, you want our approach, you want our results, you want to, you want the result on your lawn that you're complaining all these companies don't do because they're offering $49 lawns. This is the reality, but it's still a 1% game because only people can afford us. So they're really, really wealthy. you know, the 2-3. We're getting ready to start on a $10 million estate on the beach next week, and that's a $15,000 a year lawn account. And they only have 200 square feet of lawn, but
Hey,
they got palm trees, they got shrubs, they got mosquito. They want certain things handled. The other company hasn't been able to do it. And I told them, I says, you got to pay for it. These guys came in with a price, and you got used to that $300 a month price. You're going to go to $1,500, $1,200 a month now to get what you want. But I can hold out now and hold out for those deals. I don't have to go out and sell because I need to have the cash flow. Yes, it does get tight, but I got to remind myself it's always gets tight. And then you got to, you know, and that's just it. I mean, if you're in that position where you don't have to say yes to everybody and you can pick and choose who your client is, and you're in a wonderful position. Well, let me ask you a question. What's the deal at home with wife? Does she work, or she work outside the home, or is she something that she's going to be able to join you in this venture?
so yeah, I mean, her and I have talked about it. I mean, I don't know about right off the rip,
Right.
how much she would be involved, but it's kind of funny because a lot of my old customers know her. Like, so it's we certainly wanted to kind of keep it a family affair. I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm sorry that I don't remember your name, but there was a gentleman in the cemetery who posted a picture of, he had just started, his truck got lettered, and it was him, his daughter, and his wife. And I was like, man, like, I want that, right? Like, that's
Right.
what I want. It has, I think it says something about a person who's willing to put themselves like that in the public eye. But it's
Right.
also saying, hey, like, I'm willing to share, my family with yours, essentially. And I've always felt like with servicing homes, you are in someone's most intimate place. I mean, and so to have that
Right.
kind of mutual respect is really awesome to build on that.
Yeah.
So my wife, even though she's never been around pest control, I'm sure most people's spouses who worked in the industry, like, they just hear stuff. Yeah, every time your buddy calls, you're talking about how to treat a problem and how bad something was. And so, I mean, she has um a little bit of knowledge, as far as that goes. But um right now, I mean, I don't really have any plans of having anybody help me do anything, but she's certainly 100% on board and willing to
And
teach.
that's important, because now because believe it or not, that admin work
Yeah.
alone, it's about 30% of your time.
Yep. And I
And,
I already know that. And
yeah.
I've straight up told her, hey, listen, like, in between everything you've got going on, if I set you up and calls come in, I mean, if this is something that you want to do or are interested in, it would really, again, we're building something together.
Yeah.
And having that extra help at home, I think is pretty big.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is. It's huge when you have that support, because all the guys that I know, and I'm having a lot of conversations with guys that have 2 and 3 routes, but they've kept it all in the family. So both sons, after high school,
yeah.
they got involved, and they're doing a little bit because until they decide what they want to do about college and things like that.
Yep.
Decided we're going to step up. So wife is at home handling all the admin. He's doing all the sales and service. The 2 kids are out, and they're doing, $600K a year.
Yeah.
And and then you're keeping it all in the family. That's a lot of income.
Yeah. And like, my daughters, they're young. My oldest just turned 13, so I mean, they're still young, but they've this is all they've known, right? They just know
Right.
their dad was a bug guy.
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's a cool thing. But, and I've
Right.
always told them, like, hey, listen, I don't expect you to be a part of this, but really the reality of building this business for me was, at least there's an option. If you want to,
Right.
it's going to be there.
Right.
And I love that. And like I say, all my friends and a lot of these guys that I don't know and they don't know me, I've watched them. And I really have a lot of respect for guys who do that. It means a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, and somebody who carries that load with you, believe it or not, that is sharing the load. It gets heavy at times when you're
Sure.
carrying it all by yourself. I've had to do it. And when you have that load, at least part of it, or at least the support of it, and you're able, a lot of guys are able to work with their wives, a lot aren't, their spouses. I mean, just they get together as long as they do their own thing. So that's a big consideration. But yeah, I mean, I would be planning out what I plan to do for the next 10 years. What if it's three guys, if you were bringing in 400,000 a year with three guys, that produced the income that you want to do other things. That's wonderful. It's never a measuring it against anybody else. It's measuring it against what you really need to have the lifestyle you want. And you just got to be clear on what that lifestyle is. To me, it's very simple. I want to be able to do more traveling. I've never done a lot of traveling. I want to do that. So I want to have some freedom to do that. I want to do other things that I'm pursuing. For me, the training, like I'm finally launching the academy. I mean, I'm down to like doing 3 little things on it that I need to do this week, which I've already done, because I want to do training. I want to do live training. I want to do web training. I want to do small live events. That's important to me, because the training of sharing a lot of what we do is important to me. So I want to have the freedom to do that. Plus, I want to have a platform for the next 10 years when I don't want to do pest control anymore.
Right.
And I don't want to own a company anymore.
And I've seen, I mean, I have friends that have done that, dude. They've taken, and that's the thing, right? It always pays back when you're consistent.
Right.
These guys who did it, I mean, before I was born, and now they're able to still continue to live a life and do the things that they want to do because of just what they know, which is pretty awesome. I mean, if you think about it.
Right. No, I mean, hold on a second. It's just somebody messaged me on one of my texts. Making sure. All right. Yeah, no, he's going to call me. Okay. No worries. Yeah, man. So what other things were you concerned about? I mean, I know you have a lot of questions, little things that, so we can tackle some of those.
The other thing was, I was throwing around the idea, like, because I don't have my termite cert yet. And I was like, do I wait, or do I just hop right out with my GP, get insured and just, go ham? And for a little while I was thinking I was just going to wait, let me just get all my certifications done and then go at it. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I don't want to wait any longer. That's the other thing. Like, what's stopping me from just building my business now? And then once I get my termite cert, I offer that next year, whatever, and I don't know if that's something that a lot of guys do, or if they just wait and they get everything together and just kind of pull the trigger at once. So that was something that not a lot of people are real clear about.
Nobody ever will, because a lot of the times they have the golden handcuffs. They need to go out and produce money because they need to pay the bills, and they need to have the big mortgage, and they're going to need to go out and hustle and take whatever they can get. And you got time to think about it. But again, let's do the reality of termite. Can you spend 4 or 5 hours drilling out a house, trenching it, and with your physical limitations, do you have the ability, or are you going to have to hire somebody every time? And then what is the liability there?
Right.
Do you want to do just spot treatment and do tentless termite? And do you want to take the risk?
Nope.
I
worked for a guy for a long time that did that, and I just, down here, there's no way, dude. I mean,
but those are so the question is, with GPC was going to allow you to get in there, get you started. It's going to allow you to make the income. It's going to get, and then in another year or two, do I want to do termite and revisit that? Do you need to do termite to do what you want to do? No. I mean, my big money maker was lawn, but then we reversed that and I started focusing serious, because it's really about people like, oh, you can't make good money doing GPC alone. Well, Aptiv already proved that you can build a $200 million company on GPC alone.
It's true. I think sometimes I get hung up on it only because, and maybe it's just what I see here locally, but it seems like everybody just slaps as many things as they can do, on the side of their truck. And so it's like, when you roll down, it's like, everything is listed on there. And I'm like, whoa, dude, like, really? Is that
That's
where
that's more up. See, that says a lot more about their ego and them than it actually says about the marketplace. Nobody says I want to go to a restaurant with 300 items on the menu. Everybody has proven that the more items you have on the menu, the less profitable you are.
Yeah.
Where a fine restaurant will say, tonight's offering is this, and this is our 7-course meal, and this is the only thing we're offering, and they're charging you $200 for the experience. So when you start slapping, I do bee removal and I do this and I do that, it's like, how many people actually call you for bee removal? We get one call a month if we're lucky. Why am I going to build a model on a 1 call a month deal?
And I'll also say, I think too, a lot of it again is just like 5 years. A lot has changed in my area, just locally. Everything has changed.
But the pest hasn't.
Right. The pest pressures are the same as they've always been.
And the same pests. You don't have a whole lot of new pests. I mean, think about it. German.
I was gonna say, I think it's just the biggest change here is new neighborhoods that were built, and the income levels of those neighborhoods are dramatically higher than these. So like the neighborhood that I live in, right? This place was probably built in the late 60s. So there's a lot of older homes here. And you'll see kind of, if you look at a map, it's probably 8 or 9 of these communities were all kind of built around, early 70s, whatever. And I think they were all built for, people moving down here from up north. You had a lot of guys that were getting out of the military back then and building houses down here. And it stayed that way for so long. And then we had a big change in local elections, and those people started, I think, getting land development deals and bringing in these bigger neighborhoods, because for the longest time, for probably 20 years, there was really only one very large development that's 5 minutes from my house. That's where all the big bucks were, and it was so hard to get in there because it was the only place, and it's gated, and you can't just roll in there and do any kind of soliciting, and so you had to really know people to get in. And again, I think that's really more to my point, was because of that change, I almost have like not a hang up in my mind. It's just, it's hard for me to understand that where I was then and what was going on then is not the same thing that's going on now. And I know I need to shift my parameters to take advantage of these 5, 6, or 7 newer neighborhoods where the income levels are higher, that I can pay myself, what I want to pay.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at, I'm going to move you over here. Let me see if I can, just to show you. I mean, I went to a couple of places. Let me actually just go over here. Let me do a screenshot and share it with you in the audience, to give you an idea of where we are. Let me make sure I knock this window down, because there's a lot of personal info on there from people. Let me open this. We're going to share this, get this. Let's see here. If I'm looking at you, you're able to see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So here's what I did is I went on Zillow. This is great market research for anybody doing market research of where the money is. So I said, okay, all I want is houses. All I want to target is houses between $500,000 to $1 million. I don't care about anything else. 2 to 3 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms plus, and 2 bath plus. That's a lot of money for a very small house. By the way, that is 80% of your market. 3 bedroom, 2 bath house.
Yeah.
Is 80% of where people live.
Yep.
The only problem is these people have the money to pay $1 million. You're somewhere right around in here. See my move in my camera, if everybody can see this. And let me go ahead and make this screen bigger. There, that can see that. So you're right around here. You live somewhere around here. In here, I think. Yep. And here's all your money area within probably 15.
That's probably 2-3 miles from my house.